Before we begin today's video, I'd just like to highlight another video I've made called the Hardest Disney Fan Art Challenge Ever. In this video, I set myself and two artist friends a challenge. We had to draw 3 Disney characters with a time limit of 30 minutes per drawing. This video not only documents how each of us got on with this difficult task, but also features artist tips for drawing and deep analysis of Disney character design. So please go and check out this video soon, you won't regret it. Thank you. Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. In this video I'm going to be ranking all of the 2010's Disney villains into a tier list. Most of the villains of this Disney era are twist villains. Characters who were introduced as neutral or friendly, but turn out to be evil. I'll admit that it's a tricky character to pull off, but let's get the video on the road and start the ranking. Gothel is an old woman who uses a magic flower to stay young and beautiful. But when the flower was taken away to make medicine for the dying queen, the magic was passed down to Princess Rapunzel. So Gothel kidnapped Rapunzel, kept her in a tower, and used the magic through her long hair to stay youthful. Many years have passed. Rapunzel now wants to see the lanterns lit by her grieving parents every year. But Gothel forbids it, warning her that the world outside is dangerous. Fortunately, Rapunzel meets the wanted thief Flynn Rider, and she bribes him into helping her reach the lanterns. What makes Gothel such a terrifying villain is how cleverly manipulative she is. She uses all the gaslighting techniques that real-life narcissistic parents love to adopt, making her uncomfortably realistic as a villain and maybe too close to home for a lot of people who were raised by toxic mothers.
You know what I see? I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, you're here too. I'm just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously.
Gothel has managed to wear down Rapunzel for over 18 years, telling her lies, faking promises, and exaggerating the state of the outside world. She also belittles every aspect of Rapunzel's character and appearance. This is how Gothel makes poor Rapunzel dependent on her adoptive mother, and doubtful in her own abilities. Gothel really only cares about Rapunzel's hair, so you'll frequently notice that she shows more affection to her hair than the rest of her, and only compliments Rapunzel for the spell she uses to make it glow. Once Gothel realizes that Rapunzel is gone, she does immediately go into panic mode, but she also adapts to the situation just as quickly. It's quite engaging seeing how she pulls the strings while Rapunzel is on her adventure. Gothel chooses language that will manipulate Rapunzel's feelings more towards guilt than suspicion.
How did you find me?
Oh, it was easy, really. I just listened for the sound of complete and utter betrayal and followed that.
Her tricks and tactics are sly, but intelligent. She knows exactly what to say to hold her control over Rapunzel, while also avoiding any kind of accountability for her abuse. She also seduces characters in Flynn's social circle to either gain information or build up her own narrative to use later on Rapunzel.
Mother, how did you...
I was so worried about you, dear. So I followed you, and I saw them attack you, and... Oh my, let's go before they come to.
Her motives derive from an internal fear of growing old, most likely brought on by a societal pressure on women to look young and traditionally beautiful. Instead of accepting her body's natural changes, embracing her old age, and ignoring what others think, Gothel uses her child to live out a more youthful life, which makes her an ugly person on the inside. She likes to admire her vanity in the mirror, but behind her beauty you can still see evil in her eyes. When she gets angry, it's genuinely scary to watch because her expressions suddenly expose her true self.
You are not leaving this tower! Ever!
Gothel is a smart and cunning villain, perhaps the most intelligent baddie in the Disney Rogues gallery, but she's also been fleshed out with weaknesses that make her a fascinatingly flawed character and a disturbingly realistic toxic mother. This is why Mother Gothel deserves to be in the S tier. When Ralph ends up in the racing game Sugar Rush, we meet its beloved leader, King Candy, who refuses to let Vanellope the Glitch race because he fears what it'll do for the game's reputation. When we first meet King Candy, he's not introduced as a villain, but he's certainly very immature, plus he does get in the way of our heroes a lot. So right away we're given this quirky antagonist with a sense of threat, but we don't exactly see him as evil. He's more of a neutral force who seems to just care about his citizens, including Vanellope. Then we find out that King Candy actually took his citizens' memories away, and that he's behind Vanellope's glitch state, making his previous behaviour far more manipulative in hindsight. So with this new information we're now 100% certain that he's up to no good, and can officially call him the movie's villain. At the same time, the phrase "going turbo" is casually brought up by characters when Ralph leaves his game. It refers to a popular racing game character called Turbo, who left his video game to take over a rival arcade machine, only for both games to be shut down. It's an important piece of world building, but the film doesn't draw any more attention to it beyond its purpose of giving a name to Ralph's departure. The backstory for Turbo has been naturally weaved into the film's world, and we've come to learn that King Candy is someone desperate to gain power in a racing game. So when King Candy is revealed to be Turbo, it's a twist that genuinely pays off and makes sense. This is how you do a twist villain, folks. Information is gradually drip fed to the audience throughout the film, and we were given clues that ranged in nuance. There's no gimmicks or novelties, just good storytelling that can be appreciated on rewatches. Suddenly Vanellope's races become even more intense because now she's sharing the course with a legendary racer character who will do anything to stop her from winning. This makes for a really thrilling semi-finale and a damn decent racing sequence that feels very personal. The twist also plays well into the film's message of being a true hero, because Turbo demonstrates what happens when you fake success. He managed to force his way into a position of power, respect and adoration, but it's a totally unearned achievement that makes him a pathetic fraud, something that can be mirrored against Ralph's arc throughout the movie. Despite all my praise though, I can't find it in myself to put him in the S tier. You see, King Candy is supposed to be a tribute to Alice in Wonderland's Mad Hatter.
Well, no wonder you're late. Why, this clock is exactly 2 days slow.
While I appreciate the affection behind this homage, love seeing a Mad Hatter type character in a role of power, and adore Alan Tudyk's spot-on Edwin impression,
Is that a threat I smell? You're beyond the halitosis you so obviously suffer from.
I've always found this reference to be a tad distracting, and it is something that makes his character a little less original than he could have been. So I'm going to put him in tier A. Hans is a handsome prince who Princess Anna falls for at her sister Queen Elsa's coronation party, and the two plan to get engaged. However, when Anna is dying later in the film and needs a true love's kiss to be saved, Hans reveals that he never loved her in the first place and just wanted the throne of Arendelle. Hans is a prime example of a Disney twist villain not working in practice. Yes, the surprise reveal certainly shocked me when I first saw the film, but further viewings really show me that this twist isn't that clever. Trust me, I wanted to revisit the film with a new respect for the twist, but most of the supposed clues that fans have pointed out are way too subtle or discreet. They're mainly blink or you'll miss it shots, or one line in a 2-minute song. There's much more effort being put into convincing audiences that Hans is a good guy. From Hans smiling about meeting Anna after she walks off, which only the audience can see, to the film trying way too hard to get us to suspect the cartoony Duke of Weselton instead of Hans.
Ah, Arendelle, a most mysterious trade partner. Open those gates so I may unlock your secrets and exploit your riches. Did I say that out loud?
You either see the twist coming right away after an over-friendly stranger we've just met offers to marry Anna, which makes the reveal predictable, or you don't see it coming at all because the film sweats over assuring audiences that he's a good guy, which makes the reveal hard to believe when looking back. Out of all the Disney twist villains of the 2010s, Hans comes off as the most gimmicky, a twist villain for the sake of a twist villain, something quite redundant when the film already had its own potential antagonist from the get-go. Not to mention, most of his villain backstory is explained through a long, expositional monologue, instead of engaging visuals that speak for themselves, or clever dialogue peppered throughout the film, which leads to less interesting animated storytelling and surface-level character development that's hard to empathize with. I guess you could say that he at least shakes up the Disney characters library. I mean, he's the only evil royal in the Disney princess lineup. I'm going to put Hans in the E tier. Professor Callahan is a robotics teacher who our protagonist Hero looks up to, someone who encourages this gifted kid to do more with his talents. However, after Hero's brother Tadashi and Callahan are killed in a fire, Hero is left grieving. Then, Hero catches on that a mysterious masked figure is using Hero's nanotechnology project to play a supervillain called Yokai. Hero and his friends become a superhero team and plan to retrieve Hero's nanobots from this stranger, but we find out that the man behind the mask is none other than Professor Callahan. We learn that CEO Alistair Cray held a demonstration for a portal experiment, using Callahan's daughter Abigail as a pilot, and Abigail ended up stuck in another dimension. Now Callahan wants revenge on Cray for the businessman's mistake. Callahan is certainly introduced as a strong character at first, a charming and intelligent teacher who deeply cares about the next generation of engineers. However, the twist that he's Yokai is quite a clunky reveal. We only get to know Callahan in the first 20 minutes before he fakes his death, and in those 20 minutes, we don't get any good clues hinting towards his emotional instability or internal struggles, because the film concentrates more on showing how down-to-earth Callahan is. Alistair Cray as a red herring isn't handled well either. You either see him as an obvious distraction from Callahan, because the clues can be quite on the nose at times.
Voila! Alistair Cray.
What?
Think about it. Cray wanted your microbots, and you said no.
Or you'll feel like you're not being challenged as an audience, due to the lack of effort in making people guess. Now sure, Yokai is a really cool looking villain with an awesome nanotech weapon, but he doesn't really do much throughout the film except attack our heroes with the same moves again and again and again. It's also difficult to see a teacher who is wrestling with his grief under Yokai's costume, because he shows no hesitance or reluctance when it comes to harming or potentially killing his own students. Sure, grief can bring out the worst in people, but like I said, the film never hinted that side of Callahan in the movie's beginning, so I can't say that it's a natural decline in mental health, but rather a sudden character switch. Yes, there's tragedy to his character because he's lost his beloved daughter due to capitalist recklessness, but the film's portrayal of Yokai as this remorseless villain, combined with poor development for Callahan's harbored suffering, makes it hard to empathise with this twist villain. Even if he is grieving, that's not a forgivable excuse to be this reckless, dangerous and entitled, no matter how much the movie wants to preach that revenge is bad. As much as I love Big Hero 6, I've come to notice that it's more flawed than I thought, and Yokai is one reason why. I suggest that folks check out Duvu's brilliant critique of Big Hero 6 that goes into way more detail about Yokai's problems as a villain. I'm going to put Yokai in the D tier. Con artist Nick and police officer Judy are investigating the mystery behind predators randomly going feral, and they find out that toxic flowers called night howlers are being darted into unsuspecting animals to damage predator reputation. It later turns out that the culprit behind this crime is none other than the assistant mayor Dawn Bellwether. Look, I totally get the point of her character, a prey who feels disadvantaged by an animal society's perception of her, so she tries to change the system to give animals like her an advantage, while also getting revenge on those who walked over her.
So that's it. Prey fears predator and you stay in power?
Yeah, pretty much.
The problem is in the execution. Throughout the whole film, Dawn's role as the assistant mayor is reduced to just being the mayor's secretary, which sure must really suck, but she never seems that affected by it. She tends to brush off how bad it really is.
Smell weather!
Ah, that's a fun little name he likes to use. I called him Lion Fart once. He did not care for that. Let me tell you, it was not a good day for me. Yes, sir?
So when it's revealed that she's the mastermind behind the Night Howler crime, it's only a surprise because the movie never left any good clues or built up Dawn's frustrations. There's much more emphasis on her being a passive pushover than an underappreciated woman on the edge. Dawn isn't a smart villain in the finale either. First of all, when Nick and Judy are rushing to bring evidence to the police chief, Dawn just happens to turn up exactly where Nick and Judy are, and she has no excuse for this coincidence, so she's instantly suspected. She then ends up falling for Nick and Judy's childish prank of replacing her Night Howler gun darts with blueberries, and lastly, she monologues about her evil intentions in front of a cop, who may have quit her job at the Zootopia Police Department at this point, but would be smart enough to carry recording equipment while investigating a crime in her own time. And what do you know? She's got a microphone. Her defeat is really underwhelming because she's been dumbed down so that it's easier for our heroes to beat her. It's hard to believe that this sheep is the genius behind Zootopia's biggest ever crime, because she's not exactly cunning or precautious. The one thing I'll give her though is at least she knows how to compensate for a lack of menace. She's a cute and fluffy sheep, so there was no way she was ever going to be an intimidating criminal. But her ram minions are pretty effective henchmen and a good choice of animal for a sheep villain's thugs. Other than that though, there's nothing else to praise. So I'm going to rank Dawn in the E tier. When Maui and Moana enter the realm of monsters to retrieve Maui's magic hook, we find out that it's located on the gold-encrusted shell of a giant crab called Tamatoa. So I was hesitant to count Tamatoa. On the one hand, he only gets one scene in the whole film, not counting the post-credit sequence. But on the other hand, he left such an impact in his cameo that he's become a cult favourite for Disney fans. The last time I didn't count a Disney film because he wasn't in their respective film much, I got some backlash for not including them, and I admittedly handled said backlash poorly, which I do apologise for. To avoid this again, I made a poll for whether Tamatoa should be included, and it was a resounding yes. Now, even though Tamatoa is only in Moana for a musical number, it makes total sense why he gave such a lasting impression to audiences. I mean, when we enter the realm of monsters, we think we've come across a pile of treasure. But nope, this is our villain, and boy is he fabulous.
I was a drab little crab once. Now I know I can be happy as a clam because I'm beautiful, baby.
This decapod is so proud of his giant size and beautifully shiny shell. It's this commanding self-assurance that helps him to dominate the scene as an antagonist. He knows how intimidatingly huge he is, and he uses that to his advantage. He dances with charismatic energy as he toys around with our tiny heroes. Being surprisingly violent for a Disney villain, we feel this dramatic sense of despair and hopelessness because Tamatoa is in so much control right now. Even when we think Maui will save the day with his hook, the demigod misses the mark completely, and Tamatoa casually continues tormenting him. The crab's violence increases even more as his lyrics become way more personal against Maui, all while the visuals intensify into a neon-lit darkness. Tamatoa isn't simply an obstacle in Moana and Maui's adventure though. He's an important part of the film that pushes the story forward, and his very presence ties into the movie's overall theme. His appearance is an opportunity to knock the ego out of Maui, revealing how vulnerable the demigod is behind his smug arrogance, and exposing him as a fragile man with abandonment issues, which breaks down a wall for Maui to open up to Moana, bringing them closer as friends. Tamatoa is also the antithesis of the movie's message, which is to know who you really are on the inside. He's this shallow and vain crab who decorates his body to hide how awful his personality is. He represents everything that Maui can become if he doesn't find self-worth. I suggest folks check out Shrafilla Productions' video on Tamatoa, because he explains what makes his character so great in much better detail than me. It's a video that really helped me to appreciate this shiny decapod as a villain. Yes, Tamatoa is only in the film very briefly, but in the context of the film, he stays for as long as he needs to and he serves his purpose. I'm going to put Tamatoa in the S tier. Long ago, Elsa and Anna's grandfather, King Runeard, brought peace between Arendelle and the indigenous tribe of Northuldra, natives of the Enchanted Forest, and he built them a dam as an offering of friendship. However, Northuldra suddenly started attacking Arendelle. Runeard ended up getting killed in battle. This fight upset the spirits so much that they locked the Enchanted Forest in a mist. Many years later, Elsa discovers that the truth is that Runeard built the dam to weaken the natives' lands, so that the tribe will have to turn to him as a leader. When a native showed concerns to Runeard, the king murdered him in cold blood, which is what started the war between Arendelle and Northuldra. So Elsa and Anna must destroy the dam to end the Enchanted Forest's curse. King Runeard is technically a twist villain, but I can't say that he works well as one, because all we learn about him is that he led Arendelle during the conflict with Northuldra, and that he's Elsa and Anna's granddad. That's it. It's hard to get shocked by the reveal that our hero's granddad was the baddie all along, when neither sister got to know him beyond a short bedtime story. Learning that your relative is evil must be disappointing, but it can be even more crushing when you thought you knew everything about them. It's what makes Rapunzel's epiphany about Gothel's true intentions so emotionally powerful in Tangled. However, putting that aside, Runeard is still an important character, narratively and culturally. Not only are his crimes against Northuldra the cause behind the curse that our heroes must end in Frozen 2, but he's also a vital reminder to audiences about remembering the sins of the past. Sure, King Runeard isn't the first white colonist villain from Disney, but you know what? That's good. The House of Mouse should keep using this cliche again and again and again, because we can never forget how colonists exploited and murdered innocent indigenous tribes. This trope is cinema's greatest weapon against revisionist history books that want to sugarcoat or erase the past. So yeah, I can't really say that King Runeard is a memorable Disney villain, because he's a pretty one-note baddie who is more of a plot device than an actual character, but at least his inclusion in Frozen 2 holds important relevance for modern animated cinema, particularly during a time when some folks want to censor history. So I'm going to put Runeard in the D tier. So those are my rankings for the 2010's Disney villains. What would yours be? Let everyone know in the comment section below, and don't forget to click that like button. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more film and animation related content from me, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Cheerio folks!